It's time to talk sports, it's time for the show. When you hear this song on the radio, it's time to tune in, better act fast. Let me get that autograph. Potograph, Sports Talk Radio. Starting now.
Let's go! What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 126 of Let Me Get That Potograph. We are back, and I could not be more thrilled. Get into why there was a delay here in just a moment, but we have an awesome show for you guys today. Got a lot to talk about as so much has happened, as well as an incredible guest joining us later today. Incredible card artist DonnyB will be dropping in to talk about the new revolution that's going on in the hobby these days and card art, and how much it's grown, and a lot more. So really cool interview with DonnyB coming up here in just a little bit. But guys, like I said, it is absolutely wonderful to be back recording, back talking with you guys. I apologize for the delay and the length of the last episode and this episode, but unfortunately, myself and my son luckily got away without having it, but I did catch COVID, and really, it hit me pretty hard. I've been fully vaccinated for a while now, but did end up catching a small case of COVID, and still catching up a little bit, still a little short on breath. If you hear me a little lower than normal, I apologize, but we are back in the saddle now, feeling a lot better, but had to take some time off because, well, this stuff's no joke, guys, and it hit me pretty hard. So was scary there for a little bit, had to go to the hospital for a little while. Didn't really want to make too much of that public until I was able to tell you guys, because the listeners of this show are the people that I consider myself closest to in the hobby. You guys are my family, and I wanted to address that with you guys first before I really put that out there for everyone else to know, because frankly, it's not everybody's business, but I guess I just made it everybody's business. But had a slight case of COVID. We're doing a lot better now, and back on the saddle, and back to making shows, and we will be doing these shows weekly once again. And we've got tons of amazing stuff coming up, guys. The rest of this year, you're going to see a major revamp on Let Me Get That Potograph, new stuff coming, as well as some live episodes, live specials, lots of really, really cool stuff coming up soon. But glad to be back in the saddle, and we're going to dive right into it, guys, because like I said, it has been quite a busy time. And I want to start off today because a couple of days ago, an article came out on investors.com talking about the hobby and talking about the people that are getting into the hobby. And, you know, you hear a lot of people say, oh, it was just the hobby boom was just because of the stimulus. It's crashing now, blah, blah, blah. And you know how it is. I don't know why collectors are so inclined to hate and think the worst on everything, but reading this article, guys, there's a lot that you need to be doing. Check it out. It's on investor.com, but it spoke about where the hobby is and where it's going, and they continue to do so, and that's drawing the attention of a lot of major companies now. And I'm not talking about just small investment firm, like big investment companies with, you know, and things like that. We're talking about people like Disney, Funko, and even Visa are getting into the collectibles market. And there was a recent study done that showed yet again, sports memorabilia and collectibles are significantly outperforming the S&P 500 and other asset classes over multiple different years, and it shows no signs of slowing down, especially as we branch out into the fractional share ownership and all these new alternative methods of collecting that we're seeing now. There are so many new ways and new avenues to collect and to get access to cards. I mean, it's just, the market is stronger than ever. I know people point, well, these cards are down and these cards are down. Yes, but 500 other ones are soaring. You can always find a couple of cards to support an argument that quote unquote the market is crashing. The market is not crashing, and this article that was just put out by investors.com shows a great example of that, as Market Decipher, which is an industry tracker, has estimated that the collectibles market will expand to $522 billion by 2028. That's from $370 billion just last year. Billion, not million. That is an increase of almost $200 billion in the next 6 years. Notably, right around when Fanatics is starting to take over everything. And I'm one of the few, I think, that is very excited about the future of Fanatics, as I've heard through the grapevine from some very reliable sources that they may have already purchased or in the middle of purchasing a certain card company that is going to make a lot of people very, very, very excited, and may not be the one that you're thinking of. But it could have some major ramifications in the hobby, and in the most positive way, as it could bring back one of the most iconic players of any sport of all time back to cards yet again, along with lots of other things. But in addition to just the regular card market, like I mentioned, fractionable shares, look at collectible. I mean, they're going huge. They just raised $5.5 million in capital. Their focus on sports memorabilia and sports collectibles is what has fueled this. Now, obviously, this article on investors.com also, points out that The Last Dance really brought a lot of people in, and I do believe it did. But those people have stayed, and that's the key. It brought them in by nostalgia, but the people have enjoyed what they've seen, and they've enjoyed what the hobby has become, and most have stayed. Yes, some card values are down, as I said. Lots of them are up. It is going to ebb and flow forever. That is the definition of a market. It is going to always happen. But we're absolutely in one of the most exciting times in the entire world for our market. I mean, between breaks, between the multiple different avenues to go collecting, whether it is consignment through ComC or DC Sports on eBay, or whether it be just going through eBay or any of the multiple auction houses. Obviously, PWCC's new auction house, since they're no longer on eBay. Lots of different avenues to collect, get the cards, get the things that you want, but you're seeing a lot of this stuff start to hold incredible value. For example, the Michael Porter Jr. 1/1 that just sold for $60K. This was sold to a guy that coached him in high school, is a major collector, investor in the market, and wanted that card. So he spent the money to get it. It's not always someone that's buying this card for $60K thinking they're going to flip it for $500,000 in a year. These people are staying in the hobby, but the point is the money is there and people are staying. They're not leaving. More people are coming in every single day, and it shows no signs of slowing down. And one of the biggest takeaways from this article before we do move on, because I just wanted to touch on the state of the market and how I think it's actually going to be one of the strongest periods of the hobby, I think, is coming up. I don't think we've seen it yet. But basketball's overtaken baseball, obviously, as the number one sport in collecting. But the biggest shocker that I saw in this was soccer, which, let's face it, a couple of years ago, soccer was not even existent in this hobby. Soccer is now the third biggest sport in terms of sales after basketball and baseball. And it's only growing. In addition to that, one thing I've always said is that the international market is something that we always have overlooked and undervalued, and we're seeing the input of it now, as Ken Golden of Golden Auctions recently stated that, normally international sales attributed to very little of their overall sales. Now, 20% of Golden's user base is from overseas. compared to where 10 years ago, 99% of users were from the United States. You were seeing that, which we talked about forever, ever since we started the show, about how the international market was going to be key on bringing collectibles and bringing sports cards to that next level, and the overseas market has fully invested in it. Enough so that Topps even bought a printing company out in Italy just to be able to print stuff and get it easier over to the overseas market. Granted, that printing company has some severe problems when it comes to their actual quality control printing, and they really need to learn how to serial number stamp a card, but they'll get there. But the point is, the international market is diving into this hobby like never before, and the Fanatics deal drew a lot of attention, a lot of negative attention from hobby purists who have followed Topps forever and are worried that, all these companies are just going to disappear, which Topps, who owes quite a bit of money now, I believe $257 million was it, now that the public deal's not gone through. Topps may be in for a little bit of a change, but I don't see them just folding up and giving in. But you've got a company like Panini who has multiple soccer licenses. They've got their new NIL license. They've got their NASCAR licenses. And I'm sure they're going to take any Players Association license that they can get to produce cards as well. So you're going to see a lot of changes in 5 years, yes, but all of this stuff isn't just going to disappear, and Fanatics getting all of these is not just going to create a monopoly and ruin the card world. Give this stuff a chance, guys. Give it a chance. Look at the figures. If you're looking at the market and you're in this from a strictly investment or flipping, whatever you want to call it, if you're in it for that, all you need to be doing is paying attention to market trends and doing just what you would be doing in any other asset class. Adapt, pivot, and move on to where you see the money coming in next. There are so many opportunities now. If you're not able to be making money, if your goal is to make money in this card industry right now, and you're not able to make money, then honestly, it's probably not the industry for you, because there's never been a better time to do it than right now. And it's only going to get bigger. I mean, you're looking right here in that same article, Funko is now getting into it. Funko even believes that their Funko Pops that they're going to be releasing around the holiday season, they're going to be announcing a new line called Gold, which is focused solely on sports and music fans. They think that their premium vinyl collectible line is going to outsell everything else. They are going all in on sports and music as well. All of this stuff is just going to bring the hobby to a higher point than it has ever been. But when you have companies like Visa and companies like that diving into the hobby, you've got to look at it as nothing but a positive thing and something that we can really latch on to as we move forward in this industry. But anyway, saw the article. Definitely check it out once again over on investors.com. It'll give you a really good outlook on where we're going in this industry. And I think all this doom and gloom talk that I see all the time from people, block it out, guys. Pivot, adapt, read up, pay attention, study the trends, and guess what? Everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. I know we're conditioned to hate anything new in this hobby. I don't know why. Anything new or different, I know we're conditioned to hate, but give things a chance. Adapt, pivot, change your strategy. The same strategy will never work in any industry forever. Every industry, you pivot, change, and adapt. Why everyone has a problem with it in the hobby, I don't know. But guys, this is one of the most exciting times in the hobby, and I cannot wait to see what's coming up next. Now, while the hobby is growing and I do see some of the best times ahead, there is one thing that I think not necessarily card companies but distributors may need to be watching out for a little bit. And I understand that distributors more than anything should be worried about the Fanatics deal because they really have the opportunity to completely change the distribution model of cards altogether in 5 years. So it's no surprise that distributors and, some of the major sellers that get 95% of the distributors' allocation, it's no surprise to me that they're trying to push the price of boxes up as high as they can, such as Donruss football coming out at like $500 a box when it was normally even after Mahomes blew up, it didn't go over, I think, 200 the next year or so, and now it's skyrocketing to 500. I know we have Trevor Lawrence and Fields and all those guys this year, but distributors need to be very careful right now because they're obviously testing the waters to see when and where the pushback comes from consumers. And that's where we come in. If we have a problem with the price of wax and where the price of certain products are, I have no problem with premium products like Prism, which I still can't believe is a premium product since so many people laughed and thought it was a complete and total joke when it came out. But premium products like Prism, National Treasures, Optic, all of those type of things, those types of products, I have no problem with them going up. They should be going up when you see the values of what the sold comps are. But the normal products, the Donruss, the Chronicles, the regular Illusions, for example, Tops, just a base Top series or Gypsy Queen, any of that type of stuff. Those products are where distributors need to be focusing on giving collectors that value because they're going to hit a point where collector pushback is going to be heavy. I thought we hit it with Prism basketball, but collectors ate it up. So what do you expect? What do you think is going to happen? If you keep buying it and you keep buying into it, when you see the upcharge, they have no reason to move it down. So if you have a problem with it, if collectors as a whole have a problem with it, don't buy it. Push back and let the products drop. Now, we always know on release day they're going to be high, and then they're going to settle. But they're still settling at very high prices because people are buying into them immediately anyways. So if you want the products to go down, stop complaining about the price and then buying into it. Because you're not changing anything. You're not helping anything. All that's doing is telling the distributors, well, all right, we can keep the prices here, so why not? And what that's going to do is that's going to jack up the prices of the higher end products even higher than they probably should be, even though I believe that they should have a massive premium compared to years ago, because the lower end products are selling that high. So if you want the lower end to come back, push back on those. Don't rush to everything. Let breakers buy them up. Let anyone buy them up. And then don't buy into it until it has to go down. Breakers, some of the major breakers in the industry will always buy them at the top at the high price and put them up because people have shown that they're going to continue to buy them. So if you want the distribution to change, if you want the pricing to change, you've got to put your foot down. Collectors as a whole have to put their foot down. Now, when it comes to products like National Treasures, Flawless, Prism, you're not going to see that, I don't think, because there's a lot of people with a lot of income, thanks to this hobby, by the way. They've got that income now that they're going to buy those products because those have shown to be the premium products. But distributors are the one people that I think really need to be, and probably are, more scared about this Fanatics deal than anyone, as that's really, that's where Fanatics could completely come and change everything about the distribution method in the next 5 years. So it's no surprise that they're trying to push everything up high right now, as their future is completely uncertain when it comes to that. But collectors as a whole, if you have a problem with the lower end products being jacked up so high, put your foot down. It's very simple. Just put your foot down. But guys, we're going to move on now to the segment that is now taking the nation by storm. Let It Rip, of course, has become its own TV show, taking the nation by storm on video every Wednesday at 9:30 on all Let Me Get That Potograph networks. But the new segment that's taken the nation by storm, it's time for Movers and Shakers. And on this week's Movers and Shakers, it's a little different as we've got a couple of players, but I've also got a box and a certain product in particular that I think is severely undervalued. It reminds me of F1 when it started, when the boxes were worth 10 times more open than they were sealed. But you're seeing them, they've already doubled in price, and they're continuing to go up, and the players in the entire set keep producing like crazy. And that is 2021 Topps Chrome MLS Soccer. That's right, MLS. Something that in soccer was always looked at as, even when soccer became huge, it was looked as the product to stay away from. Not anymore. With Pepe, you've also got Caden Clark and tons of other really good rookies in the MLS right now that are making MLS cards finally something to chase after. But Topps Chrome MLS is by far the best value, in my opinion, right now to buy. You can buy boxes for less than the price of some mega boxes, and the Pepe cards, and like I said, the Caden Clarks are going for major money. Tons of other players and tons of other colored refractors of these players are going for astronomical amounts of money. But it's a small printed set. There's not a lot. There's 10 total colors in the base rainbow. So there's not a lot going on. There's not a retail area of it. And autographs have 3 parallels. So there's not a massive amount of this stuff printed. You've got some of the top rookies in MLS that, let me let you in on a little hint. These guys won't be staying there for long. They'll be moving overseas. You'll be seeing them in EPL. You'll be seeing them in UEFA. And you'll also be seeing them on World Cup and national teams very, very soon. And not to mention the fact that MLS is blowing up across the country, period. But Topps Chrome MLS is one of the most underrated boxes in the hobby. Singles are going through the roof, and boxes are going up by the week. I highly recommend snagging up any boxes that you can find before these double again. They started at 85. They're at about 150 to 175 after tax now. I would not be surprised to see him hit 2 to 250 in the next week or so. So definitely check out Topps Chrome MLS. It is one of the most surprising products of the year, and they're absolutely gorgeous. So that's my first up on Movers and Shakers this week. Next up on my Movers and Shakers list this week, I mean, how can he not be on here? But Kyler Murray. It's taken a couple of years, but Kyler Murray is looking like an absolute legit superstar quarterback, kind of in the veins of a Russell Wilson, I think. Remember, Seattle was really nothing before Russell Wilson got there. He changed that culture along with Pete Carroll in that defense, but Russ was a major, major responsibility for the Sea Chickens becoming what they are now. But Arizona kind of the same way, looked at as one of those teams that you never really followed and you said, yeah, they've got somebody, but they're the Cardinals. Kyler Murray is a different beast. Kyler Murray is showing you right now that he is an NFL quarterback. He is an all-star, and that could 1,000% take the Cardinals to that next level. I have so much faith in Kyler Murray, it's not even funny. And when you look at the prices of boxes of years and looking at the prices of everything from that year, they are so far behind the Burrows, the Herberts, and all of that came after him, it's not even funny. Kyler Murray, in my opinion, is still at an area where he is so worth getting. He hasn't begun to touch his ceiling. And I think he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks this year, along with the next guy on this list, which is Joe Burrow. Everyone was worried about him coming back from his injury. He had a little bit of a struggle at the beginning of game 2 this year, but you saw what happened. He rebounded, he kept his composure, brought them back, brought them close, and ended up having a wonderful game. I love what I've been seeing out of Joe Burrow so far this year. So if we're looking at quarterbacks in the NFL right now, forget the rookies. They're struggling a little bit, which I think is a great time to buy as some of these rookies drop down. It's a great time to buy. It's a great time to send them off to sub-degrading as people start to say after 2 games, oh, these quarterbacks suck, they're not going to make it, and you see them start to drop. I do think there's a big opportunity in this year's class of quarterbacks, but if it's me, I'm going after Kyler and Joe Burrow before they make that astronomical leap into that elite sphere of quarterbacks, because they're right on the cusp, and nothing that they have shown me this year says that they're going to decline. And with the slew of injuries that we just had to a lot of young quarterbacks and quarterbacks that were expected to have massive roles on the team, well, these are the guys that are still standing, and these are the guys that are still going to be putting up numbers. And I think both of these guys could end up leading their teams to the playoffs and can go on a very deep run, as they've both got great weapons and are developing both on the offensive and defensive side. So in the NFL, Kyler Murray and Joe Burrow is where all eyes should be on right now. And my last guy for movers and shakers this week is in the NBA, as the NBA season is about to kick off soon. That man is Damien Lillard. Lillard is somebody who has been on the fringe for a couple of years now. His stuff, for some odd reason, really went down in the offseason. But Damien Lillard re-signing with Portland. He's staying there for a little bit. I know he's lost some weapons, but Lillard is the type of guy that can take a franchise, just like I was mentioning with Kyler Murray and Joe Burrow, that can take a franchise and push them to the next level. Basketball, not so heavily reliant on everyone else around you as much as football, baseball, things like that. Much more of an individual sport. I think you are going to see a Damien Lillard come out this year more dedicated and more fired up than ever. I see Damien Lillard as an absolutely incredible buy. I would be buying up rookies as much as I can right now before the season starts, because he is going to have a massive impact this year, and I would not be surprised to see him in the MVP voting towards the end of the year. And if you're looking for someone on the lower end as far as movers and shakers, it's a guy that I've loved since day one, since he was drafted to one of my teams, the Heat. Now he's on the Lakers, and I know he's the backup right now, but by the end of the year, he's going to have carved out a solid starting role, probably as the leader and the point guard of that Lakers team, and it's none other than Kendrick Nunn. Kendrick Nunn cards still incredibly low. They've taken a little bit of a bump, but people haven't seen him play yet. Kendrick Nunn has all the potential in the world and is going to be playing with countless all-stars around him, playing on the Lakers and playing with LeBron James. You saw what happened to every other young guy that has played with LeBron that gets a little bit of hype. Their cards go through the roof. Kendrick Nunn's cards this year are going to finally, if he stays healthy, of course, all this stuff depends on if they stay healthy, but a healthy Kendrick Nunn is going to carve out a massive role on this Lakers team, and do not be surprised if he is not one of the most talked about in the hobby this year as his cards start to soar. Now, it's going to be on the lower end, obviously, but when you see a Michael Porter Jr. one-of-one autograph from Prism selling for $60K, Kendrick Nunn can easily surpass Michael Porter Jr. in popularity, in statistics, in everything, because he is set up to succeed. He might not put up 40 points a night because, let's face it, look at the team that he's on, but he has the potential to do it. And he could easily be running a championship team offense by midseason. So if I'm looking at the NBA right now, two guys that I would take a heavy look at on the higher end, Damien Lillard. On the lower end, with some potential to absolutely skyrocket, there's nobody else other than Kendrick Nunn. So that's the movers and shakers this week, guys. We'll be back next week with some awesome other ones, but definitely Topps Chrome MLS, Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, Dame Lillard, and Kendrick Nunn. That's this week's movers and shakers, baby. All right, and welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Let Me Get That Potograph. And on the line now, we've got a very special guest. Man, I was fortunate enough to meet at the National one of the premier custom card makers in the game today. You guys, I'm sure, have seen his work all over Instagram. Mr. DonnyB, or DonnyB Collectibles, as he's known on Instagram. What's going on, man?
Boom, boom. Another day, another way. Just out here trying to chop it up with a legend in the hobby and see if we can't rustle up some magic, man. How are you doing today, brother?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Just trying to process all the craziness that's going on in the hobby this week. It's been a whirlwind, talking to a lot of people at a lot of companies, a lot of uncertainty in the air. It's an insane time. Every year after the National, it seems it gets a little crazy, but this year it's just it's a little out of control.
No one could have predicted any of this. I mean, you can kind of generalize it and say, I think, Peter Pac-Man said he saw it come and stuff like that. And sure, maybe you could see a crash coming, but no one could foresee Fanatics just monopolizing the game. I mean, what are they? I mean, are they going to make cards? Are they gonna buy tops? Literally, are they gonna what the hell's going to happen?
I honestly personally think, I just touched on this for a minute, but I honestly personally think they'll probably end up buying the name, and I wouldn't be surprised if they try and buy the printing company as well, and just do literally everything. Fanatics, when they do it, they kind of go very, very big, so it'll be interesting to see for sure. But really glad to have you on the show, man, because we got, like I said, we got a chance to meet at the National, and the last year or so we have seen an explosion in custom card making. There obviously Topps has had a ton of artists doing their sets, whether it be Project 2020 or Project 70, and you've got yourself, Card Killer, a bunch of guys that are just doing incredible things with cards. And for a long time, that market, it was a very niche market. There was a little bit of a demand for it, but in the last year, it has absolutely exploded. What do you attribute that to, and what do you think was the major cause of the custom art being so big in the hobby?
Man, it's going to be difficult not to sound like I have an ego while answering this question, man. I mean, I literally watched the whole rise of it, starting from when Card Killer when he first started making card art pieces and tried to sell them for $65 and nobody was popping on them. And I was literally in awe of them. I would spend like 30 minutes at a time just like watching his little videos that he'd make. And he had already caught my attention with these weird little remake scenes of like movies that we've all grew up on, like Goodfellas. He'll reenact a scene using cards. So the dude definitely caught my attention. And it started, in my opinion, from what I've seen from the community that I've helped cultivate. It started from me talking to Card Killer about running some of his card art pieces at auction on my page, which I had never done with anything, cards, art, nothing. All I knew is I had like, twice as big of a following as he had, and it just gave him like, better odds. And as time progressed, my following just kept presenting more and more eyeballs and more potential for possible buyers and piquing people's interest. And there really was a process of having to validate it and prove to people that it's cool stuff. And in my opinion, I feel like I helped play a significant role in just deeming it like a cool thing to collect, a cool thing to be a part of.
Absolutely, I agree with that. In terms of promotion, social media, way beyond just making the cards, you really put yourself out there. You interacted with a lot of the fans and the people that were in there throughout the entire thing. Because I've been following you for quite some time, and so you absolutely did have a hand in it. And I also think it also, it has a lot to do with, the hobby nowadays. We can call them trading cards or whatever all we want, but it's an asset class. These aren't cards that you're putting in spokes of a bicycle anymore. This is major business. There's a lot of, myself and you, we both have jobs out of this. It's a massive industry now, and I think the younger generation, especially the generation coming up, they might not want. I have MC Escher paintings all over my house, but a lot of people growing up, coming up, I think would rather have smaller pieces of cardboard art as opposed to massive paintings and things like that. And I think that may have a little bit to do with it. I think it's a lot of different factors, but I love seeing it because the stuff that you guys do is just so imaginative, and it really brings another area of the hobby for people to collect.
Yeah, I agree, man. And a big part of what I do, along with just carving up cool cards of players that we all have either grown up on or currently enjoy watching, but I thoroughly enjoy adding nostalgia into the mix, man. Like,
Yeah,
I've been known to like pop some Marvel cards into my pieces and make some. Look, like this will be a fun one, man. Wolverine versus Cyber.
nice.
That'll be a fun one.
Yeah,
And then I've made like a piece of Captain Hook. I've made a bunch of Ninja Turtles pieces, a bunch of wrestling pieces.
nice.
So I really like to get jiggy with the whole nostalgia aspect of it. And there's like a pretty solid connection to myself in most of the pieces, like how I would want it. Like, maybe it's throwing like a little San Francisco Giants logo kind of hidden in the background or something like that. Or my favorite number, or just my favorite, my favorite colors, or always have something kind of tied into it of like, oh, that came from my creation. And another thing, I really like to just create stuff that you would never expect to see.
Yeah.
This right here is one of my favorite pieces I've ever made.
So cool.
It's got a cool S patch on the back, and the way that this formulated, I probably have like 2 or 3 card boxes that I've pre-separated a bunch of cards that I felt would probably look cool with card art at some point. So, when I'm looking for inspiration, I could already just have a couple boxes to dig through. And when I seen that Sammy Sosa card, which is him on the Chicago White Sox, which
Right.
I think he played with them for maybe half of a season.
Yeah.
Because he came up with the Rangers, which he
Yeah.
also played like half a season with. So you very rarely see him in Chicago White Sox gear. So it had that, and then I seen the color scheme. I think it's 1991 Leaf. Like that is the color scheme. It's gray and white, and then Chicago White Sox is gray and white. And then in the back of my mind, I remember that I had that S patch that I'd already cut out from a freaking Jamarcus Russell Raiders jersey. Probably like the dopest $6 investment that I got at Goodwill, just so I could cut it up and use it for this patch right here. And I mean, that patch couldn't fit any better.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So, yeah, man, I've been known for chopping up a bunch of refractors and using like refractor strips to just give it a cool, like mosaic type of look. It's just kind of a versatile shine when you kind of maneuver it left and right.
So what gave you the idea to go with cards? Obviously, you're an artist and everything. Have you been in the hobby for a long time? What made you decide or gave you the idea of, hey, I should do this with sports card?
So Card Killer was already doing his thing. He, in my opinion, is currently at the top of the food chain, and he always has been. So I had already been helping cultivate a niche following for card art specifically. And not only was I promoting for Card Killer, I started promoting for my buddy Dan. His handle is at Third Dan Art. He doesn't really make much card art these days, but he was a huge influence of how I got started. When Card Killer was making his pieces, they've always looked way too evolved for me to even do whatever the fuck he's doing, man.
Yeah.
So when I saw other people doing it differently, it like a light bulb went off in my head. Like, okay, cool, I could definitely add to this space. And I just started, chopping up cards with an X-Acto knife, and started getting some cool accent pieces from art shops, and really just kind of let that passion bleed out. And it wasn't long before I was making cards that like I would deem sellable.
Well, you had a big hand in also getting the whole, really starting to get the custom card market auctions and everything off the ground, the selling of it, the market. You were promoting a lot on social media. You would, I know, put up some of the first auctions and everything, which we've got a really cool announcement later today in regards to auctions. But you really had a hand in that at the beginning. And was this something that you saw that people were ready for this?
I'm gonna be completely honest with you, man. I don't want to sound egotistical at all. Like I said, I think the very first auction that Card Killer and I ran was, I think it was like a month before Topps Project 2020 came out. I'm not saying that like we started we created Topps Project 2020, because that didn't happen. But I mean, art cards didn't exist. You understand? Like, there was no climate for it. You couldn't just pick up and make card art and try to sell it. Like, no one would look at you with a straight face. It just didn't happen. So it was a whole progressive unit that really caught people's attention, and it just was like a rollover effect. Once 200 people thought it was cool, then they show their friends, and then you got 300 people think it's cool. And now I've created a world where there's thousands of people that think this shit is super cool, and a lot of them like to fight over the coolest card that I can find to present at auction. And as far as my auctions go, I title it Donnie's Flavor of the Week. And I do my absolute best to find the most jaw-dropping piece that I can find, that I think people will fight over. And that gets a little difficult when there is such a community based around this card art. And I'm sure a lot of artists would love to have the opportunity to auction on my page. And I don't want to disclude anybody, right. But I mean, top tier is top tier. So that it is what it is, man. And I do my best to explain that, because I appreciate every freaking level of this game, dude. Like, I appreciate people that can sell their art cards for $20. Yeah. I mean, that's $20 you didn't have, man.
Exactly.
Like, that's always how I saw it, man. I always saw it as a blessing. Like, I still do. Like, when people hit me up for a commission and they want my time to build them something that they'll enjoy. I'm super grateful for that. Like to turn that into like a monetary value, it still kind of blows my mind. And so, and it's also weird because there are people that get way more than that for a commission. There are people that charge way less than that for a commission. So it's a balancing act. And when you have like a waiting list of like 10 artists or 10 cards to get through for commissions, there's no point to like lower your prices. And not that I would make them higher, but I kind of keep them consistent until I feel my skill set has reached another level to where I merit that value, to where people could invest in a piece of mine and potentially even sell it and get some back end on it, because that's been a huge factor as well, man. People have started to see it as an investment, what changes the game completely. Rather than just having diehard super collectors get a piece of their favorite player. It's no longer just that.
No, absolutely. I think 100%, especially the new generation, wanting, I think, much smaller art as opposed to massive pieces. They really consider a lot of fine art to them is in smaller things. I mean, shoot, some of them are NFTs. They don't even need to hold them. So I mean, it's natural to me to think that the newer generation and the current hobby as well, but especially the generation coming up, really taking to these and this type of art as opposed to massive paintings and things like that. It really wasn't the way that they were brought up, and that's the way I see. And so I definitely can see this becoming, I mean, let's face it, you guys are, at least in my opinion, I mean, you're creating some of the most beautiful cards in the hobby. Much better than the card companies, much better than all this stuff, and it's something completely unique. It's a one of, we always talk about, this player has 20 one-of-ones in a product. Well, you get a card from one of you guys, Card Killer, someone like that, it's a one-of-one. It's what's made, and there's that touch and that effect to it that I think a lot of people see the value in, and see that you guys aren't just some run-of-the-mill guys taking some scissors and screwing around, but true artists that are making some beautiful stuff. And, speaking on that, how long does it take to make a piece? Like, let's say a standard piece that you're going to do. How long does it take to do that?
Sometimes, like, the conceptual part of the process will take a majority of the time. Sometimes I'll have a concept in mind from the get-go. But once the concept is in place, I would say on average between 3 and 4 hours. Okay. And I pride myself personally on the cuts. Like if you don't have sharp cuts, I mean that's step one, Yeah. So when I first started making them, sometimes I would go through 3 or 4 cards before I even got my piece made, It wasn't uncommon for that to happen. And it's kind of crazy, man. I see people get frustrated when they start making pretty solid art from the get-go, and they get bummed out that it's not popping off right away. And it just truly is a process, man. And I mean, whether it's card art or whether it's regular cards, selling regular cards, man, like you have to build a reputation. And a lot of the time that means, you're going to have to start buying stuff from people to establish a rapport. I mean, why should anybody invest their money in a page that has less than 500 followers, right, and has very few sales? Like obviously these pages can be just shut down, or they just start another page. And so really building the reputation is kind of step one. And I mean, some people can come out like hot off the gate and kind of explode, but I mean, that also takes a lot of time because then you have to get your name out there. You have to familiarize with the hobby. Uh, my biggest mission with the auctions was to create a place where talent spoke more than the name of the artist.
Right.
And I feel like I've come close to that, man. Like
Yes.
I've gotten $400 multiple times on artists that like 90% of my followers I've never heard of.
Right.
I
No,
mean, dude,
that's incredible.
right? Like we sold a freaking DMX piece to to an official member of the Rough Rider crew. Dude, where else on the planet can that happen?
I know. I know. The social media world, especially in our industry, combining the two together, you can do some absolutely incredible things. It truly is amazing. One thing you had mentioned earlier was talking about, getting the name out there and promoting and everything, and I talked about how you promoted so much. And this year at the National, is where we finally got a chance to meet. I saw you and Card Killer a couple times together, which was a very big highlight for me, seeing the two of you standing next to each other. That was pretty cool. I was like, whoa, there they are. But how was the National experience? Because every time I saw you guys, I saw crowds of people around you. It seemed like the National went amazing.
Yeah, dude, it was kind of unreal, man. Like I couldn't, I can't say that every goal was met, but
Right.
I can say that, I mean, that was a priceless experience, man. I needed it in many ways, man. I was going through a funk, and it was really cool to kind of connect, man. It almost felt like a retreat. Like if somebody has some company that a bunch of people work for all over the world, and then they all meet up at like Cancun and go crazy. Like I felt like that was like our retreat to meet up with so many like-minded people that are thriving in our industry.
Yeah.
And I mean, the best thing in the world that we can do is connect with each other and keep building a bigger industry.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Card Killer showed me this little clip of Gary V talking about it, how, a lot of people say, oh, it's lonely. It must be lonely at the top. And he said, it's not lonely at the top when you include your brothers on the rise, which is like, that's some deep stuff, man. And obviously I can relate. And any success that Card Killer gets, I get, and vice versa.
Right.
Like we really like built our reputation together. Me kind of vouching for him, and then also becoming a player in the card art game myself, and having the ability to kind of put a bunch of different artists on the map. And not only have we had, I mean, super amount of success with doing the auctions on my page with what I said, kind of like the top tier card artists. One thing that Card Killer and I are going to do on the Sports Card Art Gallery, the handle is at Sports Card Art Gallery. We just hit 10,000 followers on that page.
Nice.
Yeah, man. And our goal for that was to start running auctions from all of the different artists that we post on that page.
Sure.
So, not saying that it's not top tier. It like we'll be able to fit in more of just, more of the community that has been a part of the game this whole time. So it just kind of gives another opportunity that wasn't there at this current time.
Well, and that's really important, and I admire you guys for that. And I completely agree. The National, it really is. I say it every single year. We talk to everyone all year long on social media through DMs. We're across the country. We don't get to see each other much. The National is that time when everyone can finally get together. You can finally see each other, catch up. You can talk business in person instead of over the phone. So much stuff can be done. The National is absolutely wonderful, but I love what you guys are doing, not only for the hobby, but for other artists in the hobby, and as you said, the community, because the community truly is what keeps this hobby alive. And you guys are doing an excellent job of, keeping that alive and building it and making it even bigger.
Yeah, without a doubt. It just, you could like feel the energy. You could feel the bonds being created with all of us. I mean, I handed you one of the pieces that I had in my box that I made, which I had done to a handful of people that that made an impact on my trip. And those were key special moments for me. And not only being able to do that, I physically dropped off like 3 commissions that I made at nationals to people that are at national that people that attended, and I made a sale while I was there on Instagram, and we met up at national, which was crazy, man. Like to get people's raw emotion of seeing that piece right in front of them, it was super cool. But one thing that I wanted to show you is we picked out our first piece that we're gonna run for our first auction on the card art gallery.
Oh, so beautiful, Hulk Hogan.
Who's not gonna want to fight over that one?
Yeah, exactly.
So let me tell you a little bit about my role and where I see it going for me.
Sure.
I don't really have the time to like bust out 3-4 pieces a day or even 2 pieces a day. I mean, I'll get like a piece or 2 a week if I'm lucky, you know. But I feel like I'm a conductor. I feel like I can have a good idea of what certain artists can do to kind of put their talents on a better pedestal. Right. And when this artist, his name is Sharkbait. I believe his name is at Sharkbait Customs, and he started doing those like zigzaggy lines.
Yeah.
And boy, they started popping.
Oh yeah.
And I had this Hulk Hogan card out of my house, and I said, "Yo, I think you should make a Hulk piece." Like I think it's a good subject matter, and you put your talents into the mix. I think that's a good equation. And just like you said, man, this thing came out pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Guys, you're definitely going to want to follow that Instagram, as I'm sure a lot of very talented artists are going to be featured on there. But before I let you go, man, there's 2 things I wanted to run by you. First, I know you do have a podcast with Card Killer and everything. So first, let everybody know where they can follow you on some general sites and everything like that.
Yeah, man. It's funny. I do have a Facebook, but I'm not really on it. I think it's like DonnyB exclusives, which people have been mentioning a lot lately, but you won't really find me over there. I'm on Instagram at DonnyB Collectibles, as well as at Sports Card Art Gallery, as well as at Docaday, DOCADAY 16. That's my Daryl Strawberry and Doc Gooden collection. Nice. Just kind of was my backup page. And then on Spotify and I think it's on Apple Music, most platforms, is our podcast called Outside the Wax. And I think we are 9 episodes deep. And yeah, man, it's rather than going inside the wax and talking about, the key players to invest in and, you should grade with, SGC or, you get that tux, like rather than doing the inside talk, we really we rap about the outside of it, man. Like us making art and talking about, Pete doing hip hop songs about the hobby. And one of the I can't remember if we talked about it on the last episode or not, but Pete and I are working on throwing a live event. It should be a pretty special thing, man. It's going to be 100% related to the hobby. It's going to be all about the hobby, but it's going to be hip hop, because they're gonna do their songs, perform
Sure.
their song, and then it's gonna be half comedy. I'm gonna do comedy, gonna get a
Nice.
couple other people to do comedy. It's gonna be about sports cards. And then after after the show ends, there will be a 2-hour trade night. How could that fail, right?
That's absolutely awesome. I love the ingenuity. And guys, make sure to follow those pages. But speaking on that ingenuity, we got before we wrap it up, we got something really cool to announce. As you guys know, over here, let me get that potograph at the DH Sports Cards. We have started selling on the platform Whatnot. Well, DonnyB has been awesome enough to donate 2 of his original one-of-one originals that we are going to have, and we'll put up the date and everything in the near future, but we are going to have a live auction on Whatnot with those 2 cards. I'm going to get DonnyB to make sure we can schedule it so he can call in and be on the phone while we're doing all of this, hang out, have some fun, and guys, we're going to attempt to break the record for the highest sale of a custom card ever. That's our goal. We're going to be putting it out, so be looking forward to the information here in the coming week or so. We're going to narrow down all the specifics here in the coming days, and we'll make a lot of announcements, but we're going to try and attempt to break that record right over there with the awesome folks at Whatnot, and hopefully expose a lot of more people to the incredible stuff that is custom art these days, man.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how that unfolds. And one of the coolest parts of the Bo Bichette piece that I included for this auction, that's an actual rookie card of him.
Right.
And that dude is a monster. He's only going to keep getting better and better. And my experience, a lot of the people that get commissions from me, they like to get rookie cards of their favorite player. So I think that came out great, because the border came out. The border was like a year or 2 after his rookie season. I guess a year. Mm-hmm. And but the image, and then I got the little rookie symbol included. I think it came out great.
They came out wonderful. They're absolutely beautiful. And guys, make sure that you follow all of the pages. We'll give you guys plenty of time to make sure you're there for the live auction and everything. But help us break that record and show that custom cards are here to stay. I love them. DonnyB, thanks so much for joining the show, man. I'm going to have you on again soon, because there's so much more that I want to talk to you about, my brother. But it was great to have you on, man.
Absolutely, man. Can't wait to deep dive with you on round 2. And hopefully Iron Man and Bo Bichette, they make a pretty big statement. We'll find out, right?
We're going to make some hobby history.
Right on, brother. You have a good night, and I'll talk to you soon, all right?
And once again, I'd like to thank our very special guest, DonnyB, for joining the show. Really great guy. Got a chance to meet him at the National, and what a story that man has, and could not be happier for him for the success that he's having now, as well as all of the other card artists in the market nowadays. Card Killer, for example, a good friend of mine as well, and one of the best artists I have ever seen, whether it be on a card or on anything. You've seen all of the amazing artists that Topps has gotten to do. Topps Project 2020, their project this year. I mean, the incorporation of the art world into the hobby has never been so big, and it kind of follows the theme of today's episode of the new avenues and the new ways that the hobby is expanding, and expanding beyond just opening a pack of cards. And this is just the beginning. I mean, this is just the beginning of custom art cards and artists doing cards being truly accepted in the hobby. Tyson Beck is an incredible example. Yes, he's hired by Topps to do certain things, like he did a lot of stuff in Topps Fire, and you've seen some of the Tyson Beck sets that he's done. You've seen Steve Aoki come in and try and put together, special edition pieces. But also Tyson Beck's own personal sets that he does. The Donovan Mitchell set, for example, was one of the most incredible sets I've ever seen. The Tyler Hero set was phenomenal. Myself being a Heat fan, I grabbed up tons of those. But you're seeing them become widely accepted in the hobby. And I think that's absolutely beautiful because I've said it a million times, cards are fine art. They are no longer what you put in bicycle spokes that you throw around, that you just open, rip, and toss them to the side, and who cares? They're treated like fine art. For fuck's sake, they're held. Some of the most expensive cards in the world are traveled around by armored car. This is a movement that we're seeing right now where cards are becoming not only an asset class, but fine art as well. And people like Card Killer, people like DonnyB and Tyson Beck and Tim Carroll and the countless artists that I'm not mentioning right this moment, I apologize, guys, but just so many people that are getting into this space. And if you look on Instagram, if you look on eBay, if you look on Facebook, anywhere online, you're seeing the demand, the results, and the demand is skyrocketing. This stuff is selling for more than ever before, and it truly has carved out a very nice niche market that I think is only going to grow, especially as the hobby becomes a little more consolidated card-wise in the next 5 years with Fanatics. But all these alternative areas that we've talked about today, and some that I'm going to talk about in just a minute as we wrap up the show, all of these alternative ways to get into the hobby, these are going to be the crucial aspects of what moves this hobby to the next level. I know people want it to be the same, where it's just cards in boxes and everything be how it used to be, but that's not going to take this hobby to the next level, where it needs to be. Things like this, things like Alt, who just had an incredible amount of money put in through a round of funding. Things like Whatnot, another group that just had massive amounts of money through their funding. I mean, these companies are going to be essential in the future of this industry. They're raising massive amounts of capital. I mean, you got PWCC, which was kicked off eBay, and everyone thought that that was the end of it. Their auction house is doing incredible numbers, and I would expect to see a lot more stuff from PWCC and a lot of these other companies and people that are either in auction house spaces or I'll call them alternative avenues in the hobby. It's going to be crucial for the success of this hobby, and I think it's going to make the hobby expand that much more because you're bringing in that many more new people. And we saw it before when sneakerheads and flippers, whatever you want to call them, when all of them jumped in, a lot stayed. And the same thing is going to happen here. We're in the middle of an incredible movement, especially in the art world and especially on the alternative aspects of the hobby, such as Alt, Whatnot, Loot, things along those lines. It's just getting started. It's providing everyone with multiple different avenues that they can pick and choose what they like. It gives people access to stuff that they would never have access to before, and it gives you multiple different choices, which is something that, let's face it, is essential for, once again, that market growth. So I'm really excited to see what happens in the future here as we start to see the art world come into the hobby. We start to see all of these new alternative methods of the hobby come into play. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be interesting. And while all of them may not be your cup of tea and you may hate all of them, and that's perfectly fine, every single thing that's released is not meant specifically for you to love. And I think that's something that we lose sight of in this hobby, that we think every single thing that should be released should be all for us and made just for us. No, it's made for other people in the industry that may want something different than you, and that's okay. It's all okay. I see so much, and I've talked about this a million times, just so much hate on anything new. That's fine if you dislike something, but it doesn't discount it, and it doesn't make it any less legit or any less than any of the traditional ways of collecting. Now, let's face it, LCS is never going away. I mean, if anything, we're seeing the rise of LCSs. I've seen more open. Shoot, there's one opened here in Wilkesboro, for God's sakes, who hasn't had one in over a decade, and it was just an old mom and pop store that sold barely anything. We're seeing shops open up here. We're seeing shops open up left and right. You've got Jimmy Mahan's incredible idea for his Kentucky Road Card Show. Just so many different LCSs and things, and LCSs trying different things as well. LCSs aren't going anywhere. They're going to be essential to the hobby always, but having these alternative ways is just going to bring more people to this industry as it continues to grow. And just like the article at the beginning of the show that I was discussing said, you're seeing more and more people come in. And it's nothing but great for the hobby. And instead of this doom and gloom outlook that everyone has with this Fanatics deal where they think everything's over and everything's ending, take a step back, look at everything, and realize that everything may not be for you, but there's an avenue in this hobby for everyone. There is a place in this hobby for everyone, no matter what you want to do, how you want to collect, how you want to invest, whatever it may be. There is an avenue and an outlet for you to enjoy the hobby the way you want to, which we've never had before, to be completely honest. It was always the exact same thing, LCSs and eBay. Now we're seeing multiple different ways to be able to either be involved in big cards that you can't afford before with fractional share investing. You've got places like My Slabs, which is an absolutely incredible site if you're looking for slabs only and you want to stay away from eBay or eBay isn't your thing. There's just so many new outlets. And then on the artistic side of things, you've got multiple new companies helping you to where, hey, maybe you don't want a custom card. Maybe you want to be able to display your cards as art. Well, Show Your Slabs, for example, have created one of the most impressive and, in my opinion, the product of the year of a display where you can take all your slabs, put them on the wall, have the designs however you want. They do incredible different designs. And when you place that thing on the wall, as you guys see every week on episodes of Let Her Rip or any of our live shows, Hobby Hotline, anything, it looks beautiful. And it turns these slabs from something that you might be holding in a vault or holding in a safe, and you're able to display them as art and display them in a beautiful way. Yes, there's always been ways to display them before, but like I'm saying, you're now given multiple different ways, and you've never had more options in the history of this industry on ways to collect, ways to display, avenues to go under, whether it be investing, flipping, collecting, whatever it may be. There's never been a better time in this hobby. So instead of automatically looking at the doom and gloom of everything, take a step back, find the things that you truly love and you truly enjoy, and embrace them. Don't worry about the things that you don't like. If they aren't meant to last, guess what? They'll be gone. We've seen it a million times. And so, like I said, you've never had more opportunities to enjoy the hobby the way you want to. So instead of taking so much hostility and frustration at everything new, take a step back, find what you like, and enjoy it. If that's the one thing I can leave you with today, that's what I'd like to leave with this episode, is find the avenue that you like, embrace it, enjoy it, dive into it, and have fun, because this is an industry where you can work, make money, and also have the time of your life. Or you can just sit back and collect, and guess what? Still have the time of your life. But y'all, that's gonna do it for this week's episode of Let Me Get That Potograph. As I said, guys, it is so good to be back. I apologize so much for the delay, but that COVID stuff is no joke. I literally could not get through 10 to 15 minutes of talking without being so worn out that I couldn't do anything. And I don't want to put out any type of content that is not up to the standards that we try and set here, which is hopefully an enjoyable podcast for you to listen to. But we are back, baby, and you'll be looking at new episodes every single week, along with Letter Rip every single week at 9:30 p.m. We may be changing the time here in the near future. I will be letting you know about that. But every Wednesday you can catch Letter Rip. Make sure to check out Hobby Hotline as well every single Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern. I was on last week with Sam and Dr. Beckett. We had a wonderful show, and we've got an incredible cast coming up this week as well. But before I go, I do want to thank our sponsors, of course, Walk-Off Submissions, Card Ladder, Doghouse Breaks, Vanity Slabs, and of course, iHeartMedia. We could not do this show without you guys. Card Ladder, one of the greatest places for analytics that you can go to. Vanity Slabs puts out one of the coolest products. If you just want stuff to be in a slab and you don't care about the grade, I highly recommend checking out Vanity Slabs. And of course, Doghouse Breaks, who Dax and them put out some incredible breaks, and Walk-Off Submissions, which does the very best reviews and bulk submissions in the industry if you want your cards graded. So make sure to check all those guys out, as would not be able to do the show without you guys. So thank you very much for your support, and thank you guys so much for tuning in. And guys, I've said it a couple times, but it is so great to be back. But until next week, you guys know the deal. Keep ripping those packs, pulling those hits, and we'll talk to you next week. Peace!